Hi, everyone.
Hello,
It's so great to
everyone.
see you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Leading Hearts Live. Man, it's been a while, Rebecca, hasn't it?
Yeah, a couple of months. Our last issue came out in April, and so you just released this issue last
Yes.
week, end of last week.
Yes, the end of last week. And if you guys didn't get that issue, please, 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 you need to go up to leadinghearts.com and you need to sign up and you will be on the mailing list to get that issue. Um, but it was such a crazy, crazy time of it because, Rebecca, it feels like the summer's almost over already and it's just began, you know? It really does.
I guess it depends on what all you do for the summer and how quickly you think it's gone. I just had vacation Bible school last week
Oh,
and had
you
my
did?
grandchildren in for vacation Bible school so they could go with me. So that was my entire week. It was just dealing with
Big,
with having the grandkids and vacation Bible school. But it was fun.
yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and it was beautiful to see my 6 and 7-year-old granddaughters just so excited about vacation Bible school,
Oh,
and the 6-year-old especially so excited about memorizing her Bible verse. We were
oh,
studying Psalm
wow.
23, and she
Yeah.
was just so happy that she was able to fully memorize Psalm 23:1.
You know what? That really brings me back to the memories of growing up in Vacation Bible School because I really looked forward to going to that as a kid, and I almost think they should have it for adults, kind of, but not I mean, yeah, we can't get out of work to do it, but, it was so fun, we actually had the church bus that came and picked us up for Vacation Bible School. Did you have that when you were growing up?
No, no, we always drove, yeah, but of course we always drove, but my mother was normally helping with Vacation Bible School. And then when I was old enough, I was
Okay.
helping when my siblings were in it. I remember a few years of helping run the whole thing. So I'm very gladly, I just, in our current church now, one of the other pastor's wives actually runs the Vacation Bible School. That's her ministry.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I actually just I teach the fourth grade class. I've
Oh,
done that for the
wow.
last few years at this church, and it's a great class. Normally, I have like 50% of the kids are kids that I have in my Awanas group because we do Awanas. I do the third to fifth grade Awanas. So about 50% of the kids in the fourth grade class will be kids that were in Awanas with me, so I know them well, and yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
I remember, I love it, and I loved the little felt boards and the little, um, the Velcros, and used to have, like, a guy that showed up, and his name was, Cowboy what was it? He was dressed as a cowboy all every time. And, I can't remember if it's Cowboy Clark or something like that, but he used to be the MC for, Vacation Bible School, and he'd get all the kids hyped up, and he'd do his, like, rope tricks and everything like that, and I think that as a kid, those are kind of one of the most memorable things about Vacation Bible School is how they really made it special. It was almost like a carnival for us.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's fun to see what they do with the theme and the arts. I mean, we made the most adorable cow for our Highland cow at the end of the week. It's just absolutely
Oh,
precious. And in crafts. And one of the things that I do with my kids, because they're
mhm,
fourth graders, and a lot of them, I mean, I had a lot of kids that really knew the Bible well. And so
right.
there's always these questions and games. Well, I normally have about 50% girls and boys. Sometimes it's off by one or two. And so at that age, the boys and girls love to compete against each other. So when we come to
Yes,
question time in my classroom, I will line them up, boys and girls, and they go back and forth answering the question. If they get the question right, they get to roll a dice to see how many
mhm,
points they get for their team, and then we
yes,
see whether the girls win or the boys wins for the day. And they absolutely love doing that, and they're so excited and they're so ready to answer all the questions and pay attention to really know what the answers are to all the questions when it's time
yes,
for that.
and that's the one thing now how old were your VBSers, the
Well, like I
group
said,
of
I
you
had the fourth graders,
4th
so they
graders?
were, 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay. So I remember, for a long time, my husband taught the 4 and 5-year-olds, and yeah, that was not a good group to like actually sit still for a while.
No, they
So
wouldn't.
there was a carpet where each had a dot, and you had to stay in the dot. And then if you stayed in your dot, you got a little prize at the end of the night. And I don't think what fourth graders probably need that.
No, but when sometimes they would want to chit chat when we were doing the game.
Yeah.
And all I'd have to say is, well, whoever was my helper that day, because it ended up I changed out helpers a little bit during the week. Whoever was my helper, I'd be like, well, if so-and-so notices that you're talking, they'll just have to start taking points off of your teams. And then it was they were standing in a straight line being really, really good. They didn't want to lose a point for their team.
Exactly. Well, and so Vacation Bible School for your kids are like it's a week long. Is it a week
Yeah,
long?
we did 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for a week.
9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Wow.
So
That's
every morning.
that's a pretty good chunk of the day to do that. And it's, as I said, it seems like the summer's going by. We're in July. It's 4th of July
Yep.
this coming well, yeah, it's this
This
weekend, isn't
Saturday.
it?
Mhm.
This
Yes.
Saturday. So, do you guys have anything that you plan, or with your grandkids, or stuff like that you plan
So
for 4th of July?
this year, our church, the
Mhm.
church lawn out front, is
Ooh.
directly across from the park that they set off all the fireworks for the county in. Or
Oh,
like
wow.
the town's fireworks is right there.
Uh-huh.
And so people come to our lawn all the time to sit and watch the fireworks. So
Oh,
this year, with
wow.
it being the 250th, we are doing an event at the church. So we're offering free hot dogs and popcorn and snow cones, I think it
Oh,
is. And
wow.
then we have an ice cream truck that's going to do $5 ice creams. And
Oh,
then
wow.
my husband's the worship leader at the church, and he has 2 sets of 5 songs that are patriotic and but Christian patriotic. It's mostly Christian patriotic songs. There's a couple songs that are just on Jesus, and then
Mhm.
we will also be giving a gospel message in between the sets of music,
Oh, that's
and we'll do
awesome.
all of that for dinner time before everybody watches the fireworks.
Oh, wow.
How
Yeah.
about you?
I don't have anything planned for 4th of July. I probably will be doing the next issue of Bleeding Hearts.
Yeah, it is due in just another week because we
It
are doing that one as a print issue, so it's
you
due
know,
a little bit faster.
it is due a little bit faster, and it's amazing though, when they come back to back like this, and normally they don't. It's just we have a print issue coming up, which is really cool, that we do at our ASA conference for the Christian Products Expo, where a lot of our authors have books that they are promoting to the booksellers at the Christian Products Expo. And I also love our time together as the Advanced Writers and Speakers Association, because it's just a big time of networking and just friendship and going out for meals and stuff like that. I really appreciate those times together that we have, because we don't have besides the virtual events, we don't see each other face to face very much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The main time that I see people is at NRB or at the ASA conference. This
Mhm.
year I did teach at Blue Ridge, and I saw a number of ASA members at Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we have actually a book contest every year, and
yes,
you said we've had one of the biggest turnouts for that entries for the
we did. We
contest.
had 323 entries.
Wow, that's
So
pretty.
I'm telling you, just making finalist is amazing. I'm
Yeah.
down to just like 5 scores that I need left for us to be able to call finalists later this week. So we will be announcing our finalists later this week. We're
Ooh,
down to there's just a few
finalists.
categories I need to get the last things in, and then I need to double check all the spellings and make sure that I
Yeah.
have, all of the authors and illustrators for every book listed
Yeah.
appropriately.
Well, we know that it takes a lot of painstaking accuracy to get the names of the people right on their awards
Yes.
and their houses and the names of the books. So it's kind of cool to see all of this come together every year. And it's just it's Rebecca and Linda and Tom and me and Nicole. I mean, I sometimes I just see the miracle of how this magazine and how everything functions. And I just like, God, you're showing up all the time, because this doesn't make sense. This does not add up. And it is a lot of work though. And Rebecca,
It
you
is.
do a lot for ASA, and putting everything together and basically telling us where to go. Rebecca directs traffic in this.
And I do want to shout out and say hi, Tamra. Tamra, I believe, is one of our newest ASA proteges that's joining
Oh, hi
us.
Tamara.
I
How are you
believe I know we have a
doing?
Tamra that's a new ASA protege. I don't remember if it's the same last name, but I'm thinking that's who that might be.
Yes.
And Amber, we've been talking about the next magazine, but this magazine that just came out is absolutely fabulous. It's
Yeah.
chock full of fabulous information, especially the story of our cover girl, Nicki
Yeah.
White.
Nikki White, man, I was so amazed with Nikki. Her childhood, I'm going to let her talk about it, but she didn't start writing until her 50s. Now, I feel with her, because I really didn't start writing until my 50s. And it's an interesting season that you walk into. And I wonder if that's a common thread for people, because, your kids start getting a little bit older. You kind of start reconnecting with what you wanted to do when you were, way back when, the dreams that have gone by the wayside. And then you realize you have all these unfinished ideas, unfinished books that you kind of have back in the kitty. So, I know that a lot of ladies come into ASA when they're in their older years, but
Mhm.
I know the youngers come too. But that's why I love this organization, because we just really kind of feed into it. And Nikki's just been a book machine, actually, since she's come into her giftings. So it's really cool to see her, and to see her have come out of such a background of her childhood was not ideal. And but we all have stories. We all have these stories, and they deserve to be told. And sometimes they shape who we are, and they can help others. And just to be able to be at a place where you can sit down, where you can put those to paper, where you can take the paper and you can get that out there to print, whether it be through a traditional publisher or doing it independently. It's a real privilege, actually, to be able to do that. So, and Nikki's, as I said, she's been a powerhouse. And kicking out books.
So let's bring Nicki up on stage. And Tamara, we're so excited that you're part of ASA also, and that you
Yay,
did join
Tamara.
us.
Hi,
Hi,
Nikki.
Nicki.
Hi.
Hi. Well, Missy, you are the graceful girl. Do you call yourself a cover girl officially? I mean, you are the cover girl.
No,
No.
I would never call myself a cover girl.
Well, we're calling you the cover girl now. So
Okay.
you can take that. You can take that honorary, we bestow upon you the title of cover girl. And Nikki, this is your story, which you shared in the new issue, is a powerful story. But I want you to share about how you basically got your start as a child. You did not have the ideal growing up environment. And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'll just give you a little nutshell of, yeah, my sister and I were adopted. My mom had had like 10 miscarriages. And then they had some foster kids, and then they adopted my sister Lissa and I. And we lived on a horse ranch.
Mhm.
And my dad was really brilliant, actually, but he was kind of a jack of all trades and was helping people with things all the time. So it was feast or famine most of the time. He
Mm.
actually worked for the engineer firm that he designed the pins that hold up the Space Needle.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I went to the World's Fair when I was like 1 years old in 1961 or whatever, in Seattle. But But yeah, I grew up in Washington, and we moved to a little farm in Snohomish that our family still has. And then when I was in junior high, my dad died of a heart attack, and it
Wow.
was a famine time, so we had no income at the
Oh,
time. And
wow.
my mom had gone through a lot of years of she definitely had depression, like
Mm-hmm.
in, anyway. And
Yeah.
then so then when all that happened, and a month, so we had 32 horses at the time, and about a
Wow.
month later, we had someone buy 29 of them, and they drove down the long driveway in trucks, and we just cried all over again, because there went all that we knew was our horses. And
Wow.
so then life just changed. Our grandparents lived in a house on the same property. There's two houses on the property. My sister lives there now, actually. And so we just kind of survived. I mean, mama had a hard time coping with things, and
Yeah.
uh,
It's
I mean, there was times when we didn't have things work, things weren't working. And then a year later, my grandma died, my mom's mom, and she was kind of the other powerhouse in the family. So with
mm,
my dad and grandma gone, it was my mom and my grandpa, who didn't talk the majority of the time. He was just silent older man. And
wow.
so she was to take care of him too.
Mhm.
So
That is a big challenge, especially, I know dealing myself with mental health issues, how hard it is when you feel like you're not there for your kids, even at the sidelines. And now looking back, even though I take my medicine, it is, you can like pull back from yourself and say, hey, I wish I was there. I wish I was present, but it still makes that time, um, really
yeah,
tough.
I don't think she really knew what to do or how to cope. And
Mhm.
I don't think, I mean, she slept in the afternoons.
Right,
She, and didn't get up in the mornings really when we left. I mean, like
right.
it
You
was
took
just
care of
hard.
yourself.
And through that, can I go ahead,
Yeah,
continue?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the funeral director suggested we weren't going to a church. You guys talked about VBS, like everybody goes. I didn't know any Bible stories, or I didn't have those kid things like y'all had.
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
so that, not everybody has that, but that's neat that you do. But, and so he suggested this man who was like 29 years old, whose dad had died when he was young, and he did a lot of funerals. And so he did the funeral. And then a couple months later, he came down to the farm, and invited us to his little country church. And then so my mama and Lissa and I went, and we saw Lissa saw kids from the high school that she knew, and they invited us to youth group, and we were both really, I don't know how God just really provided for us before we were even believers. We were just really popular at school
Mhm.
anyway. I mean, I was in ASB all the way from junior high through high school through college. So I mean, like, I don't know, you kind of like, I don't know how that happened, but and so we plugged in instantly. Like within a couple of years, I was probably president of a youth group or something. I mean, like, we just plugged in, and that was our life. And it was a lifeblood, because when we'd go home, things were depressive,
Right.
and it was sad and hard, and we weren't allowed to have friends over and all that. So that was hard. And I think most of my high school friends had no clue that
Right.
anything was going on.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
how many people do we know like that, where we don't know their story, and we don't know, and then
Yeah.
in our 30s, I mean, a lot of things happen. I went to a Christian college, like blah, 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 things happen. And then in my 30s, um, we had brothers find us, birth brothers.
Mm.
And then that put in a whole nother monkey wrench. And
Mhm.
like, and then they had relatives, like families, and like lots of relatives. And the interesting thing is that, so our birth mom had my two brothers and my sister Lissa, and divorced my birth mom.
Mm.
So I had a different dad. So that's why I'm short, and they're all tall, and they all look alike. And and so uh, you know, that was just all kind of weird. And then there was like all these more people that we met,
Yeah.
and I don't know what I really felt with that. And more things kind of were coming out of the woodwork. And at one point, my son said, "Well, this is just twisted, Mom." And somebody said, "Yeah, somebody needs to write this." So I'm not a writer. I never have considered myself a writer, really.
Mm.
I was just a mom and did artwork and was always creative and painted backdrops, and I worked in Awana for 30 something years also, Awana, yes.
Mhm.
And did those kinds of things too. And, just involved in stuff, always wanted to be in full-time ministry. And then I just kept thinking, so could somebody use this story?
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and overcoming adversity story. And who would it help? People who are burdened for widows, people who are burdened for orphans, all those kinds of people. And so my first book, Not Really a Princess, I kind of started writing, and I had parts of it done, and my pastor's wife, interesting enough, the pastor that led us to the Lord, moved to Boise, Idaho, where I live now, and was my pastor here. And but my pastor's wife, she said, "Nicki, you need to go to a writers' conference." And I went to Colorado. I went to Marlene's
Mhm.
writers'
Mhm.
conference in Colorado, and I went to all the classes, and I took notes, and everything. And everybody said it might take you years to get a publisher.
Mhm.
And they also said memoir type stuff does not sell, so don't write one of those. So like, there's a lot of negatives. And I
Yeah.
had two people give me business cards that said, "You don't need a book proposal, just send me what you have." So
Right.
when I got home from Colorado, I sent out two manuscripts. One, I never heard from the person. The other person was Larry Carpenter from Carpenter's Son. And he said, oh, in his Southern accent, he's from Franklin, Tennessee. He's like, I think we could, this is something that we would publish.
Mm.
And I said, really? He said, yeah, I'll call you tomorrow at this time and we'll talk for an hour. I'll tell you everything that you need to do. So then my husband was redoing our bathroom, and he walked through, and I said, I think I have a publisher. He goes, right. And then he just walked through. And
Mm.
then he came back in through the room, through from the garage, coming the other direction. I said, no, honey, really, I think that I have a publisher. Anyway, and then Larry talked to me. He said, I need your cover within 2 weeks because we need for Ingram's catalog. And then you have this many months that you can do this, and you have to have it finished by this. You need a book trailer by this, which I'd never even heard of a book trailer. So it was just like, I didn't know like all these steps for writing, and all you people who are listening that have written a book or whatever, it's like I didn't know all these things, and it was a real big learning curve. And then,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like 8 months later, Princess was published. I mean, it was
Right.
like already. And I don't know, this little book, and it has a lot to do with adoption, and a lot to do with widows, and a lot to do with compassion, like people overcoming something, and that God brings us through that. Which, it's interesting, 7 books later, that my new book
Yes.
actually ties in with my first book
Mhm.
on a deeper level. You kind of go on, and there's stories that pull you through other people's journeys, and it shows how God's using those in their lives. So that's the nutshell of why I started writing in my 50s. Not because I felt like, wow, I need a new career. I didn't feel that at all. I would help a lot of people with a lot of different things. I did not think that at all. I just thought somebody had to tell the story.
Yeah. I know that you go into a book sometimes and telling your story and thinking, why am I unique? Why is this unique? Everybody has this story, but nobody has that story quite like you. And I know we're in a season where we have a lot of kids who are growing up in single parents. They're growing up with single parents. They're growing up with adopted, especially with COVID. There was a lot of cases where the mom and dad passed away, and so there's a lot of orphans in the widows and orphans, and it was you almost you consider almost the single mom an orphan and a widow and an orphan, and I think it's an important ministry that you have, and I believe that your publisher saw that um, that it was important for you to give a voice to that.
Well, and I think, I mean, people are like, so my second book, it's I'm not really trying to do an ad, but my second book, it's not about the pie, had to do with how do you help people? But hospitality, like you don't have to have the perfect house. You could just like talk to your neighbor because you have no clue what's going on with them. I was at a ladies' retreat once, and this lady is talking about this man who lived down the street. He was really grumpy. He never talked to anybody. And at exactly 5 o'clock every day, he went to the mailbox. Exactly 5 o'clock. Wouldn't talk to anyone, grunt at people. So she decided, I'm going to go to my mailbox exactly 5 every day, and I'm going to wave to him. So she did that every day. And after about 3 weeks, he looked up at her. And a couple weeks after that, he kind of grunted at her. And within like a month or two, I don't know how long exactly, he went like this or something. And I think about that. And I also think about the widow that's sitting across the aisle from you at church. Have you asked that? They might have a stove that doesn't work or a fridge that doesn't work. Or, I mean, I've been to someone's house before and gone to help with like an irrigation pump or something. And they said, so I just wanted you to know, like, is this wire supposed to be hanging out of the wall? Or like, I can't close this door. It's broken. Like they would never have said anything had I not checked on them. Right.
Yeah.
And so I just think that there's things that we can do every day, every week, to be intentional, to reach out to that person that's sitting by themselves, or child that's brought to Awana by themselves, that doesn't have a family, that goes somewhere. And, that's part of what Live Boldly Ministries is all about. It's all about being intentional, kind of purposeful, going out of your comfort zone. And,
we're kind of in a culture now that we don't know our neighbor as well as we did before. And I know that, there was a house a couple of doors down from us, and, didn't really see the person ever come out of the house, but that person passed away by themselves in their house, and nobody knew except their online friends.
Yeah.
Their online friends knew that there was something wrong, and so they called the police. But it's really a shame almost that we are in a culture that we don't know our neighbor anymore.
Right. And my mom, taking care of my grandpa, who was not an easy person for her to take care of. Lisa and I both fled to college, to Christian college. I went to, then it was called Los Angeles Baptist College. Now it's the Masters University in Southern California. And we both kind of fled away because I wasn't in a healthy place mentally. I needed to be away. I couldn't be there. And Mama was there with my grandpa, and I came home. She was in a really dark place, but I came home and there was a note on the refrigerator, and it said, "Nobody can make me angry but myself." And I thought, God's working on her heart. And it was interesting because 25 years later, she died when she was like 97, like 10 years ago. And there was people that would come every single day to see her in those last like 10 years. And they would sit at her feet by her rocker, and they would hold her hand, and they'd say, "Thank you for praying for my son. Thank you for praying for," and she was her happiest her last 25 years of her life. And that's how much God had worked in her life to change her life. And at first, it kind of irritated me because I thought, well, you don't really know her. Like that path, her passive aggressiveness was really what kind of made me kind of crazy. Like I couldn't cope. Like, just, "You're fine, Nicki. You're okay. Go have fun." Like there was just so many things that I was just like not in a healthy place mentally. But God started changing her and working on her, and did change her to have that joy. And she would call everybody on the retirement list for church to see if they were up in the morning. She would go through her church directory and pray for each person. And when she was done, she would go through it again. She didn't know everybody.
Mhm.
So she'd get to a name she didn't know. She would say, I don't know what's going on with it. And she prayed through it. She did that for years.
Wow.
So she was an example of someone that God just worked and changed her heart,
Yeah.
even in their later years. And, that
Yeah.
gives me hope for me changing and growing too. It's like we're all growing, and I think part of my new book, it has a lot to do with the path, that sanctification process, maturing in Christ, and the things that he's doing. It's like, well, what am I doing wrong that this happened? Like somebody died of cancer, whatever. It's like he's pruning you, like it tells us in John, and the vine, he's like pruning the vine so
Mhm.
that it grows better. And
Yeah.
I think people don't really necessarily understand, none of us do when something really bad's happening,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about Rachel. I mean, Rachel. Why am I saying Rachel? You talked about Nikki. Nikki, you talked about, how kind of all the stories that you've written feed into each other, and it kind of just, but that's kind of how a lot of times how our stories unfold, and a lot of the things that God brings out as we move forward, even in writing. I've noticed that as well. Um, the new book. Let's. What did you learn just writing the new book, The Path After Grace, that you maybe didn't realize before? Maybe something that you wish you would have known when you wrote book one.
when I wrote
Book one.
it, before I wrote it,
Well, when you were writing it, what was something that you knew then that you wish you knew that when you wrote the first book?
when I wrote Princess.
Yeah, when you wrote Princess.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think just realizing more and more that God has a plan for us in ministry and how we can minister to others and share with others. And I was just kind of sharing, thought maybe somebody could use that story, but then it became a point of, like, I share the gospel in all my books.
yes.
Like then it became a point of, Lord, who's going to read this today? Who's going to buy this book? This is more of an outreach. That's
Right.
like everyone goes through a hard time. Everyone goes through something difficult. Who's going to read this that it could minister to? And I think in everything we do, there's that plan. There's that person in in line in grocery store that you're talking to, and they're not sure if they can pay for their groceries, and they're 12 cents short. So what do?
Yeah.
You kind of flag down the checker and say, like, I'll
Yeah.
pay for it,
Right.
There's so many things we can do. And I think that we need to,
Be
think
mindful.
about our journey and how God's going to use our journey. And I think with me, I really try to point out to people, because,
Mhm.
part of the reason I wrote Pie was because, I had hoped people would help us.
Mhm. Yeah.
I wanted people to learn that they need to help others, because I can remember, I mean, I was sitting in front of our fireplace because our heater didn't work, and my mom was going to go to bed, and she told me, "Don't let the fire go out, because the pipes will break." Because it was cold.
It was cold.
And it's like 3 a.m, and she comes out. She realizes I'd fallen asleep and totally laid into me. And you know what? There was no water in the kitchen, only a trickle. We couldn't fix it. I want to say I was through maybe 6-7 years. It was like that. No water in the kitchen.
Wow.
And I felt blamed for that. And
Yeah.
so that's a whole different topic. But there was that.
Oh.
But there's so many people that we have no idea. I know someone that a widow that somebody was supposed to come fix their roof, and then they called a month later and said they didn't have time. They never fixed it.
Wow. Wow.
And I
I
think that there's people that we don't know how they're hurting. We
Yeah.
have no idea when we go to church and we're talking to our friend, or there's someone we don't know very well and they're sitting there and they're just, like, who knows what happened this week.
Right. Right. What are
And
some ways that you can encourage people to be more mindful about what the needs are around them of people?
well, I think if one of the bad things COVID did
Hmm.
was people started live streaming.
Hmm.
Now, the positive to that is if you're sick, you can watch your church service. And
Hmm.
our church does that. And the majority of our church, we weren't even shut down very long in Idaho, hardly at all. We weren't even hardly shut down. Our governor was just like, and we ended up with really strong economy because, he just wasn't like, we're not going to do that. And so for a little while we were, but I think one thing that it taught us, is that some people never went back to church.
Right.
Some people now just sit at home and watch church. So like I said, like if you had surgery and you can't move and you're in a wheelchair, well, yeah, you can't go to church maybe. But how are you going to know if you're just sitting at home watching church? This is going to bother some people like that. But how do you know that if that person, like sitting in back across the aisle from you, how will you talk to them and know that there's a problem? You won't ever know. You won't ever connect with that kid that's parent dropped them off. You won't know any of that if you don't connect with people. So I think things like small groups, not just home groups, like we have a home group that meets in our house that for years and years, but even things like even your choir group or your Awana leaders or your Sunday school or your VBS groups or whatever, there's ways to be connected somehow with something.
Right. Right.
And I
That's
think
true.
the person that's not connected, like that's out there that's just not connected to anyone, they might be the person that's hurting. And I think we have to think about what we're doing. My third book, Bold, Living Intentionally in Today's World, written during COVID, has stories of people who are doing big things for God. Okay.
Right.
And people who died who did big things for God. People like Corey Ten Boom and Billy Graham and Jim Elliot and
Yes.
Spurgeon and those kind of people, and people in the Bible. Now that book is like 34 chapters. Like I could have gone on and on and on and on.
Yes.
There's just so many people. But like somebody like Abigail, who people don't even think about, but she knows that David's on his way to like probably kill her husband. So get your food together, folks. And then she meets him on the road,
Yes.
resourceful, totally resourceful, and then,
Yes.
her husband dies and David asks her to marry. Yeah, all that. She was very resourceful. But there's people that have done big things. And
Yes.
there's so many people that do big things. And some of the people that are still living in that book, they, like there's someone that works with human trafficking.
Right.
And one of the things she told me was, it's not usually this brute person that you think of, or you're in a really bad place or something. It's like someone grooming you that's like a relative or something. She goes, 70% of it is all like people that you might know or some nice person. It's not any of they call them the Romeos. The Romeos, and there's the gorilla type person, but it's almost all a totally different kind of person. So there's different stories of different people. And it's like, I think each of us can do that. Each of us can make a point to do something big. And like I said, I never considered myself a writer. And, I just am continuing to do, and what being a writer is like, it's like you sell one book a month or whatever, it's not like it's necessarily this big thing, it's like, why are you doing it? Why do you continue in your ministry? What, how are you?
Because it's ministry.
Forward but it's that person. I mean,
right.
They could read something. I had some elderly man in my church come up to me and he was crying. And he said, he just sat down. He never talked to me. Sat down and he looked at me and he said, I read my wife's book. I didn't get along with my mom. And he stood up and left. I was just kind of like, huh. That's really interesting. So you really don't know who you're going, like writing a book. You don't really know who's going to read it.
No,
You
you
don't
don't.
really know who you're going to reach. But the thing with this ministry, and I've told people on my team this, it's like we have an opportunity to reach people we would never have never have met, that we will never meet, like across the US somewhere that might read a book. We have an opportunity, or if I'm speaking somewhere, that I would never have met without doing this.
Right. So good. So good. Well, we have quite a few people up on the live on the chat comments. Rebecca, you wanna say hi, do some shout outs for us?
Sure. So hi to Amy Harden and hi to Leslie and Joan. And we talked to Tamara. We mentioned Tamara earlier. So we've got a number of people that are here. If you have not put your name in and said hello to us so that you can be in our drawing, do that now because we'll be doing the drawing in about 5 minutes. So I will say that. And Nicki, you talked about people that did big things, but a lot of what you were talking about is actually little things. For the widows. It's the little things. It's noticing them, and it's the little things. I remember my mother talking about a child who, I don't know if he lost one parent or both parents, and he was living with someone. I think he was living with his grandmother in her church, and he was just really struggling. And so one of the things my mother did is she wrapped gifts, and she'd have Bible verses to go along with each of these, just things from the Dollar Tree, not big things, just little things. And she, for at least 3 months, every month she would give the adult with him a package with gifts for every day of that month. So you'd have little things to open every day of that month. And it wasn't a big thing. The stuff was from the Dollar Tree. It would have cost her less than $100 for 3 months worth of little gifts for this child. But it made a huge difference in that child's life. It wasn't a huge thing. It's not, you mentioned just noticing that, hey, is this why you're supposed to be hanging down because you're at somebody's house that just it doesn't know those things and doesn't.
And had you not gone, you would never have known.
Yeah.
Right. So I think also what I'm hearing from you also is doing those little things, finding people that are near us and doing little things for them is really important. And those little things can grow to big things, but they can also just be little things that touch a life that needs touching.
Yes. Yes.
One thing that I do every once in a while, you might think this is weird. People talk about, well, when you give money, you're not supposed to tell anybody. Well, that's true, but sometimes there's an immediate need and you have to meet that need. Like they need money that day, and obviously they're going to know it's you. So I don't think God's opposed to that. But like college kids, we have a big ministry because of Boise State, right by our church actually, and you can just have like a $10 bill in your palm of your hand or a $20 bill, and all you do is you go up to shake their hand, and you just put it there, and then they know it's secret that you did that, and they just kind of crump. They don't know what it is at the time, and they just crumple it up and put it in their pocket. But I've had a couple kids like they don't have any money for lunch or whatever. Right. Like you could just do something really random like that. Yeah. Like on some Sunday, like someone that you're thinking of, it's like, that single mom could go out, take her kids to Del Taco. Yeah. or you're right. It's like something little that seems like it's insignificant to us. But
I think the thing about it is when you do some of those little things, people see that they're seen, that they're known, and they're loved and cared for. Someone cares enough to see and know and then reach out. And that's kind of the essential elements of love. We want to be seen. And a lot of people have gone just like you, Nicki. You wanted just to be able to be seen and to be talked to and acknowledge that you had needs too, and that's such an important thing, because when you go through life and you feel like no one cares if you would go away, a lot of people feel that they're not seen, or they don't feel that anyone would care if they go away. And we don't want to live in a world where our next door neighbor feels that we wouldn't even know if they went away. And because that's the world, that's what we need. That's what we need to be doing. And that's the essential element of who Jesus was, is he saw people. He saw people who were suffering. He saw people on the streets. He saw people, he was very attentive to the people who reached through the crowds. And so
I make cookie plates for neighbors, at Christmas, which most people do, many people do.
yeah.
And I'll just make like 6 of them, and now whoever random neighbor I think of giving it to, I'll give it to. And one year there was a lot of people who weren't home; they were just traveling, and I had like 3 of them left. So my husband and I just drove downtown to where the skate park was in a homeless area,
Mhm.
and we just rolled down our window and said, "You guys want some cookies?" And these people came over. Cookies? It's like, yeah, Christmas cookies. It's like, yeah. And so like we gave these trays of cookies, handed them through the car window.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Look, you guys, there's Christmas cookies," and then they're like, "Merry Christmas." They're like so excited. And I thought,
Yeah.
how easy was that to do?
Right. Right.
That's just an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And
Go
you
to the
don't
skate park,
recognize the
get some cookies.
people. You don't recognize the people that is really special to people. People don't get that. People don't get stuff like Christmas cookies. There are people in the world that you're not, I mean, there's people in your neighborhood that they don't get that. They don't get a present. They don't, they don't have a money to shoot off a bottle rocket on, 4th of July. Not that,
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
I can remember I lied about what I got for Christmas because you go back to school. So this is the thing to think of when you think of little kids. I went back to school and they said, "What'd you get for Christmas?"
mhm,
And so I made up things that I got for Christmas.
mhm.
And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you don't want to seem like the oddball either
No,
because you
no.
don't have something.
Right. At our church in Marathon, when my husband was pastoring in Marathon, we had a big homeless ministry that was in the back of the church. That it wasn't just our church; all the churches in the area donated to this ministry that helped the homeless and the those that were poor. But one of the men in the church was just talking with one of the guys one day, and he was saying how he had not had a hot breakfast in years. And so we started once a month. We would do on Saturdays, we would do a hot breakfast just for anybody in the community that wanted to show up. And we started it really because the homeless in the area were like, well, we get hot lunches sometimes, we get hot dinner sometimes, but we haven't had a hot breakfast in years and years and years. And in Marathon, Florida, which is in the Florida Keys, because there never freezes, we had a large homeless population in the wintertime. So we started doing that, and it was great. And we would just, and at first, I think some of the homeless were like, well, do we really get invited in for this? But
Mhm.
that was the purpose was for anybody in the community to come in, and so they would sit, and we would try, and we first asked some of our church members, come in and make sure you're sitting around at the various tables so that
They meet someone.
everybody, so they meet people and things like that. And it started bringing homeless, some of them started coming in on Sunday mornings as well as the Saturday morning breakfast. And so then we made a point of making sure that we at least had donuts on Sunday morning that were free, available in the sanctuary, along with our coffee, for some of those that came in. But I know there were just a few of the homeless over those first few months were like, this is the
Yeah.
first time I've had sausage or a hot breakfast or any of
Yeah.
those things in months, in years.
Yes.
And you never know when something that you do that is little
Yes.
can make a humongous difference to somebody,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it brings them something they haven't
And then
haven't ever had or haven't had in years.
And that's true, Rebecca. I know that in this time, especially in summertime, and they talk about the epidemic of children who are going hungry. They don't get their meals because they get free lunch during the year, and they don't have it right now. And there might be kids in your community that are going hungry because they're used to having a free lunch, they're used to having a free breakfast, and they're not getting it.
Our
So
parks department does it in the summer.
that's so
Yeah,
good.
there's
That is
various
so
places
good.
that will do it. And normally but that doesn't mean that those kids can get there
Yeah,
because most of
yeah.
the time they don't have transportation to
No,
get to places.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just being mindful. And I love, you hear these stories of these parents who go into the school system and they pay off kids lunches that they've developed this bill. And it's just small things that you just don't think about. And that that lack a lot in the summertime months, when kids are not able to get to the places that they normally get to and be
Yeah.
resourced like they're normally resourced. And so, I mean, hey, there might be a ministry right there in packing some packing some sandwiches and taking them out to kids
Mhm.
at the local, park where there's more of a low income population. There is something you can do, and there is someone who, when you're there, will need what you have. And that's so
You know,
important.
I think of my mom, and like she would like slip like $1 in each of our hands when we went to church, once we started going to church. And we didn't have any money, but she always did that.
Hmm.
And it's, you know, that people might be listening and thinking, well, I can't do that. Or I can't really afford to do that or whatever. But there's just little things that people can do. And I think, or I'm not worthy to do that or whatever. And I always go back, I think of Paul and writing Philippians from prison. And it's kind of coined the joy book, right? The book
Right.
on joy.
Mhm.
And it was written from prison. And then in Philippians 3:13, forgetting what lies behind, reaching forth to what goes ahead, and you think, you know, you can overcome and help others, and that helps you grow too, and helps you learn and grow, and then somebody else can see that example, and then they can do it, and it kind of is just a form of discipleship where it just kind of continues going on and on,
That's so good. So good. Well, we are like at time, Rebecca. Do we need to
We are.
draw the wheel of names? And Susan, I saw you sneak in here.
Yep, I got her on there.
Yay. Okay. Well, we have a book to give away, and we have the wheel of names going.
And it looks like it's going to Joan Benson.
Hi. Oh, great. Awesome, Joan. Congratulations. And this is exciting. It's exciting to be able to share your story, Nicki, and this issue. We have a prize for everyone out there, and that's the new Leading Hearts magazine. You can read about Nicki's story. We have so many great stories in that magazine. And you go to leadinghearts.com. We're there. You can give it, we'll give it to you free. Share it with your friends. It is a blessing for those who, hey, you may not have a bunch of money to give away, but you can give away hope in a free magazine even. So think about that. And also, Rebecca, we are getting ready. As I said, we're getting ready to go into another issue of Encores of Leading Hearts. And we want you guys to sign up, leadinghearts.com. And we also want you guys to all have a great 4th of July.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Any final things, Rebecca?
Just, as you said, sign up for Leading Hearts. And, think of a way that you can do something maybe small for somebody else. I find that when I'm doing something for someone else, I think it brings me more joy than it brings to the other person a lot of times.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah. And
if,
Nicki, yeah, go
if
ahead.
you're down, finding someone else to do something for will bring your spirits up.
Right. So good. So good. And Nicki, where can people connect with you and your resources and everything? We want to make sure that they can connect with your books and such, and you as personally.
liveboldlyministries.com. That's my website. And I mean, I have social media. They could, Nicki Corinne White. I have a page, and I actually have a Facebook page called Live Boldly. And all my books are they're orderable to any bookstore, or I mean, they're on Amazon also, but you can go to a bookstore and order if they're not there. And so they're all there. And I actually have a YouTube channel. I think it's just Nicki Corinne, under Nicki Corinne. It might be Nicki Corinne. I can't remember all my social media things, but and I have my video series. I have a 45-week video series.
Whoa!
It goes with my workbooks. It tells how to lead someone to Christ, how to tell your story, what things you can do for people. There's printable things you can do.
Lots
and
and
that's
lots
my
of
YouTube
resources.
channel. And then I have a podcast on my YouTube channel. And I have a new thing I'm starting called Live Jesus, and they're 90-second videos, and that isn't started really yet. It's kind of in the works. So so yeah.
That's
social
so
media.
exciting.
I'm all,
You're a busy girl. You are, Nicki. You're all over the place. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share with us on the live, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next month. And you guys take care and have a great holiday weekend.
Thank you. You too. Happy 4th of July.
Happy
Bye-bye.
4th of July.